Hey guys, Steven here. Fanatic perspective. Congratulations to the LSU Tigers defeating the Clemson Tigers. Tiger on Tiger crime. Death Valley versus Death Valley. LSU prevails. They cracked the streak at 29 games. They have a streak now of their own, 15-0. LSU Tigers, Baton Rouge. They get it done. 45 minutes, hour drive, whatever it is, to the Superdome, where they wanted to be all year in New Orleans. 42-25 in a game where, we'll get to that in a little bit. This is just instant reaction, instant emotion of how I felt as a college football fan watching it, and then some big picture takeaways I had from it. But a game where Clemson came out, and I really liked their game plan early, on offensively and defensively. What Brent Venables had going, what Jeff Scott and Tony and Dabo and all those guys had going on for Trevor Lawrence, and to get the way they were getting Travis Etienne the ball and getting him involved within the offense. But LSU is inevitable, and they've been inevitable all year, and they're one of the all-time great college teams led by Joe Burrow, who is who had the best season I've ever seen from a college quarterback, maybe player. Player's a little bit more difficult because you have to go, offense and defense. But from a quarterback perspective, no doubt about it, best season I've ever seen. And you have to give a lot of credit as well to Ed Orgeron and Joe Brady and Steve Ernstmeiger and Dave Aranda. The leadership they've had from a player standpoint on defense, holding each other accountable. I've just been so impressed with this LSU team since they defeated my Texas Longhorns in Austin earlier this year. And speaking of Texas Longhorns, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Boss's Ranch. Texas fans, best darn ranch in Texas. Those of you in Central Texas, HEB Cold Produce, check them out. Can't be beat here in the ranch game. But I also want to give congratulations. Like I said, this is like real-time instant reaction. We'll post this and I'm going to go to bed because it's late. And it was a really long game. But Billy, congratulations. For those of you who don't know, Billy went and flew down to New Orleans to be a part of the festivities. I don't know if he got into the game. Hopefully he did, to see his team win a national championship. I know many of you were coming at Billy in the comments during our preview because he was so confident, but that confidence bred into their fan base. It was a part of their story, that swagger, that confidence. We're going to come in, we're going to dominate. We don't really care who's lining up across the ball from us. James Brooks, buddy James Brooks, who's a big LSU fan. Congratulations, brother. Dr. Lawson, congratulations to you, my dear. Black Goatee, all you guys out there that are LSU fans, congratulations. You should be more than thrilled. Again, like I said, by an all-time great football team. Now, as it relates to the football game, the flip side of it, and I love what Reese Davis had to say in one of the post-game commentary. Clemson right now, believe it or not, is still the bar. They still have 2 championships in the last 4 years, and they make the playoffs every year. They're always there. Now, granted, many people are going to comment about them playing in the SEC. I'm sorry, in the ACC, and having, getting the opportunity to ramp up. They're getting SEC level players. They're all these 5-star guys. They're playing in this conference, whatever. But when they've performed well on this stage, they came up short today and lost to a better team. I actually think it was a tough matchup for them, because when you look at what Brent Venables was trying to do once LSU figured out the pressures, it was really tough. Kendrick, AJ Terrell lost some money tonight. He really struggled in coverage against the Jamar Chase. Now, everybody struggled against Jamar Chase. That's why he won the Blitnikoff. But just losing those battles consistently, losing track of the football, not able to stop the bleeding and get his man on the ground, to the point where in the second half, as they put Kendrick on him. He's a little bit faster, but doesn't have the experience, is a converted wide receiver, and he predictably gets cooked. the safeties, and then when I talk about matchup, Clemson didn't have the safeties on the back end to supplement and help because you're so inundated with Moss, who still went off, Jefferson, who still got loose, Terrace Marshall Jr., who ended up getting high pointing a touchdown later in the game. So, and then you have Simmons trying to patrol as much as he can while mixing in his blitzing responsibilities. They were overwhelmed, and it was too much for them to overcome. Once the targeting penalty didn't go their way, which is the rule they're obviously going to have to correct, the game was really over. I mean, that guy was one of their leaders, and when they had to put in Brent Venables' son, you're losing those reps that getting people lined up. It was just too much to overcome against a team that you probably weren't going to beat anyway. That's why I wasn't really tripping. I mean, the pass interference call with T. Higgins, yeah, it was BS, but you're still going to get smoked, right? Like, that probably puts at that point it makes it 32 points or what it was. It would have been a 10-point game. And yeah, you're still in the ball game. You have a chance to breathe and live, and but your defense was already on life support at that moment. So barring a miraculous play, which if I'm a Clemson fan, I at least want that opportunity. But barring a miraculous play, LSU was just strolling right down the field once they figured things out, and with such little resistance at the hands of Clemson and Brent Venables, he was helpless. But why was he helpless? Because he was going against the greatest modern offense, or actually the greatest collegiate offense we've ever seen, especially from an execution standpoint. LSU didn't blink all year. They were flawless. They had times where, maybe they didn't run the ball as much as they should have, or they got a little too aggressive. But that is super, super nitpicking. Even when they wanted to go to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was good to see him back healthy today. When he wasn't, full tilt in the playoff game before, they're able to go to one of their freshmen like a Chris Curry, and he can just keep toting the rock. They have an amazing tight end in Thaddeus Moss. They have all the receivers imaginable you can think of. They have an underrated offensive line who did struggle today, but who doesn't struggle with Brent Venables' pressures. But then you have a quarterback with insane mobility who's also a underrated runner and can elude a lot of those pressures and just be smart back there, not fumbling the football, taking care of those things and not panicking under duress. And then the playmaking ability of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, like I said to start the video, best offensive player I've seen. I mean, and look, I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, Steve, from a season standpoint, even if we're talking about like the greatest seasons and the best we've seen and all that, like Cam Newton carried 2010 Auburn. I've been hearing that a lot. He carried 2010 Auburn. Auburn didn't have another real great NFL offensive player, and their defense wasn't that great either, and they still went on to win the national championship. Cam was great. 30 touchdowns, 20 on the ground, 50 total. Didn't throw for 3,000, but he did run for 1,400. To me, Cam's not even really close to Joe Burrow, and here's why. Cam didn't get MVP in the national championship. He was actually a little bit shaky in that Oregon game. Go back and watch the game. Michael Dyer was the one who won the MVP and kind of took over in the run game. And he was a freshman at the time, I believe, before he ended up going to Louisville and got into some trouble. But Michael Dyer was the one that kind of took over that game. And the other thing, too, is Joe Burrow and this LSU team going through 7 top 10 opponents, going through, what was it? It was either 7 top 10 opponents or 7 top 25. It's late, and I'm sure LSU fans going to jump on that's really happy and have all the stats. But you're also looking at they beat, when you like the preseason, like number 2, number 3, number 4, number 1, like they went through everybody and defeated them all. Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Clemson, Oklahoma, you name them, they beat them. So the level of competition, albeit Joe Burrow has obviously a better cast of characters around him from a talent standpoint, the production level is even above Cam. I mean, he had 65 touchdowns. threw for a FBS record touchdown passes, had over 5,600 yards passing. He had 400 yards and 7 touchdowns in one half in the semifinal game 2 weeks ago. And then he comes in against a top 3 defense in Clemson, and they bring out the blowtorch again. Like, and my thing with Joe Burrow is, at least with Cam, and I'm not trying to disrespect Cam or VY or Jameis or Johnny Mans, but like all those guys have moments where they blinked. Period. Like at some point in the season, they may not have lost, but there was moments in a game or a long stretch of time where they struggled. Joe Burrow, that's not the case. Every game he didn't blink. Yeah, he had a somewhat sluggish first quarter for him, but they still finished the half with 28 points. So, you're right on schedule to get 56. So, like, it's incredible. Now, I will say this too. LSU's resume as all-time team, like, that's where we have to be careful of not being prisoners of the moment, because for you to be an all-time team, for me, you have to have a great defense, and this LSU team did not have a great defense. And I'm only saying that because of the numbers, and there were some weaknesses. Like Christian Fulton got exposed today, and that was something I talked about in the preview. I think he's overrated personally, and I felt that way even coming out of our game when they came to Austin, and that was the guy we always targeted. We were always trying to avoid Stingley. And they worked to Christian Fulton again. Grant Delpit finished the game really well, got the fumble on Trevor Lawrence, but he had his moments where he got picked on a little bit, pass and run. So, this defense definitely could be had. I think one of the issues one of the things that this LSU defense gets to benefit from is the intimidation of their offense. Knowing that you have to score every single time just to have a shot is daunting on the offensive psyche, and I saw that wearing on Trevor Lawrence when they're pressing, because Trevor Lawrence had clean pockets at times, and he's just flat out missing throws. And I know some people are going to say, well, LSU was starting to get better, more and more pressure. Divinity was a factor. Chason was in there. Rashard Lawrence had a good game. So that was definitely one of those things. Factoring into Trevor Lawrence not being fully comfortable. But I also thought he just wasn't sharp and was missing a lot. I thought he came out sharp and then just kind of fell apart and knew, damn, if I don't score a touchdown, they're going to go back and score a touchdown on my defense. And now I'm going in a more and more of a deficit. And that's something that Tyler brought up in his prediction on the preview was, eventually they're going to fall behind to where ETN is no longer a part of that game plan. They can't turn around and run and be balanced the way they were the first half of the game. And that was a big, big key in the outcome of this game. But again, hats off, Coach O, the LSU Tigers, phenomenal performance. There'll be a lot of debate. Personally, I have them. I still got like the 0-1 Miamis. I know people are going to throw out. I'm talking about like the all-time great teams. I got the 0-1 Miami team. The collection of talent they had. Yes, they didn't have the offense that LSU had, but defensively they were incredible. People will throw out they played in the Big East, and then that's certainly a factor, because one of the things that LSU will hang their hat on historically is their strength of schedule. You cannot argue that. Now, as a guy who's a big 2005 Texas person, beating Ohio State, beating that all-time great USC team, we're definitely in the discussion as well. So it's all, subjective now, but I also believe that Texas team had a really good defense. There's a bunch of teams. 95 Nebraska was a juggernaut. They didn't play a close game, and they went back-to-back because they won in 94 over undefeated Penn State, which is controversial, but that's a whole other thing in college football history. And then I'm curious to get perspective from people that are a little bit older, maybe folks that are old enough to have seen a 1971 Nebraska team, right? Or one of those early 70s Oklahoma teams or early 80s Miami teams. Like some of those type of folks, if they're part of the discussion and how this historic LSU offense and this historic LSU football team we just saw really run through this season, how they stack up and fare against those teams. I think this is going to be a very interesting debate we have over the next few weeks as we wrap up and put a bow on this college football season. But guys, I'll be back with, when I'm rested, because like I said, I'm sure everybody's tired, but be back interviewing Billy when he gets back. Tyler will be back on. Have a surprise LSU fan that we'll have on. That'll be a really cool interview. And then for my Texas fans and all the college football, my regulars, really wrapping a bow on this season. We've been keeping up with staff hires on our end and covering that. And then getting into wrapping up recruiting, because that's going to be the next thing. Coach O already said he hitting the road on Friday and trying to close out this class beginning of February and really getting our jump start into the 2020 spring practices. So excited for everything. Lastly, congratulations again. Go Tigers. LSU getting the dub, national champions. What a feeling to do it in the great state of Louisiana. So guys, I appreciate everyone that continues to support my channel. For my Horns fans, Horns always up. And I'll be in Baton Rouge next year so we can get our revenge. Peace.